Let me ask you something. Have you ever promised yourself that this time you would stay consistent? This time you would protect your peace? This time you would truly heal? And then, slowly, you drifted away from your own commitment. Have you ever felt that quiet disappointment, not because someone else let you down, but because you let yourself down? Many people believe self-trust comes after success. They think, when I become more disciplined, more confident, more successful, then I will finally believe in myself. But what if trust is not the reward at the end of the journey? What if it is the starting point? In this episode, we explore how self-trust is built through small, kept promises, how stress reveals self-abandonment, and why healing is gentle, not dramatic. You will not only grow in English listening, you will also learn how to return to yourself with honesty and care. And if this lesson gave you something useful, I'd love it if you tapped like and subscribe to the channel. It helps you stay connected, and it also helps this little learning community grow. Every click really does make a difference. With love, let's dive in. What does self-trust actually mean in daily life? Self-trust is not about always making perfect decisions. It is about knowing that you will respond to yourself with care, even when you make mistakes. It means believing that you will not disappear emotionally when things become uncomfortable. In daily life, self-trust looks simple. It looks like resting when you are tired instead of pushing yourself to exhaustion. It looks like completing a small task you promised to do. It looks like speaking kindly to yourself after a difficult day. These actions may not look impressive from the outside, but inside, they create safety. Your mind slowly learns that you are reliable. Over time, this reliability builds quiet confidence. You begin to feel supported from within instead of constantly doubting your ability to stay consistent. That inner support becomes the foundation for emotional growth and long-term healing. Why do we often choose big goals instead of small promises? We are naturally attracted to dramatic change. Big goals feel exciting and powerful. They make us feel motivated in the moment. We imagine a new version of ourselves and feel inspired, but excitement is not the same as sustainability. When we choose goals that are too intense, we ignore our real energy levels and emotional limits. Soon, pressure builds, stress appears, and instead of adjusting the plan, we quit completely. Then shame enters the picture. We tell ourselves that we lack discipline or strength. In reality, the problem is not ambition. The problem is imbalance. Small promises may seem boring, but they are realistic. When you promise something manageable and keep that promise, you create evidence that you are dependable. That evidence builds trust slowly. And slow, steady trust is stronger than temporary motivation. How does self-abandonment happen during stress? Stress reveals our automatic reactions. When life feels calm, it is easier to stay connected to yourself. But when pressure increases, old patterns appear. You might ignore your needs, criticize yourself harshly, or distract yourself from uncomfortable emotions. These reactions often come from fear. They are attempts to protect yourself from pain or disappointment. However, when you consistently ignore your feelings, you create distance from your inner world. This is self-abandonment. It is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet disconnection. Healing begins when you notice this pattern without judgment. Instead of attacking yourself, you pause and ask, "What am I feeling right now?" That question creates awareness. Awareness gives you choice, and choice allows you to respond with compassion instead of pressure. Each compassionate response strengthens your self-trust. Why is compassion more powerful than harsh self-criticism? Many people believe that being strict with themselves will create improvement. They think that harsh criticism will push them to do better. But criticism often creates fear and shame. Shame does not build confidence, it builds avoidance. When you attack yourself for mistakes, you create emotional distance. Over time, this distance weakens self-trust. Compassion works differently. Compassion means recognizing mistakes while still respecting yourself. It sounds like, I made an error, but I am still worthy of patience. This mindset creates emotional safety, and safety allows growth. When you feel safe inside your own mind, you are more willing to try again after failure. You no longer fear your own reactions. That steady internal kindness becomes a strong foundation. Trust grows when you know that even during difficult moments, you will treat yourself with care rather than punishment. How do small kept promises rebuild your confidence? Small kept promises rebuild your confidence because they create proof. Not dramatic proof that everyone can see, but quiet internal proof that you are reliable. When you promise to go to bed a little earlier and you actually do it, you send a message to yourself. When you promise to take 5 minutes to breathe instead of reacting immediately and you follow through, you strengthen self-respect. These actions are simple, but they are consistent. Consistency builds trust. Big promises often feel exciting, but they are harder to maintain. When you fail at a big promise, disappointment feels heavy. Small promises reduce pressure. They match your real capacity. Over time, your brain begins to expect follow-through instead of failure. That expectation changes how you see yourself. You stop thinking, I can't trust myself, and start believing, I show up for myself, even in small ways. Why is self-awareness necessary for emotional growth? Self-awareness allows you to observe your thoughts and emotions without immediately reacting to them. It gives you space between feeling and action. Without awareness, you operate on automatic patterns. You may avoid conflict when you feel insecure. You may overwork when you feel anxious. You may criticize yourself when you feel disappointed. These behaviors are not random. They are learned responses. When you become aware of them, you gain the power to choose differently. Instead of reacting quickly, you pause. You ask, what is happening inside me right now? That simple question creates clarity. Clarity reduces confusion and impulsive decisions. Emotional growth depends on this ability to notice patterns. When you understand your internal world, you can respond gently instead of harshly. That gentle response strengthens your relationship with yourself and builds long-term self-trust. How does perfectionism interfere with healing? Perfectionism often hides behind the desire to improve. It tells you that you must heal quickly, behave perfectly, and never repeat mistakes. But healing does not work that way. Some days you feel strong and clear. Other days you feel uncertain or emotionally tired. When perfectionism controls your mindset, normal setbacks feel like failure. This creates frustration and pressure. Over time, pressure leads to exhaustion. Instead of continuing steadily, you may give up. Healing requires patience, not perfection. It requires understanding that progress is uneven. When you allow yourself to move forward slowly without demanding flawless behavior, you remove emotional tension. You begin to value consistency over intensity. This shift protects your self-trust. Instead of abandoning yourself during difficult moments, you stay present. That steady presence makes healing sustainable and realistic. Is healing a straight path from pain to peace? Healing is rarely a straight line. It often feels like progress, followed by setbacks. You might feel calm and balanced for weeks, then suddenly old emotions return. This does not mean you are back at the beginning. It means you are processing at a deeper level. Growth often requires revisiting familiar feelings with new awareness. Each time you return to the same emotional challenge, you respond with slightly more understanding. That difference is progress. When you expect healing to be smooth and predictable, setbacks feel discouraging. But when you accept that growth includes repetition, you stay steady. You realize that returning to difficult emotions does not erase your development, it strengthens it. Self-trust grows when you understand this natural rhythm. You stop rushing the journey and allow change to happen gradually and honestly. What changes when you respond to yourself with presence? Presence means staying mentally and emotionally available in the current moment. Instead of escaping into distraction or self-criticism, you remain aware of what you feel. When sadness, frustration, or anxiety appears, you notice it without panic. You breathe, you observe, you allow the emotion to exist without immediately trying to fix it. Over time, you discover something important. Emotions move, they rise, stay for a while, and then soften. When you practice presence, you learn that discomfort is temporary. This understanding reduces fear. You begin to trust that you can handle difficult feelings without losing control. That trust creates inner stability. Instead of reacting automatically, you respond thoughtfully. Presence strengthens your connection with yourself, and that steady connection becomes one of the strongest foundations for emotional healing and personal growth. Why is honesty with yourself a form of strength? Honesty with yourself is not weakness. It is strength in its most stable form. When you admit that you are tired, overwhelmed, jealous, or hurt, you are not failing. You are recognizing reality. Many people try to appear strong by ignoring their emotions. They pretend everything is fine, even when they feel pressure inside. But this creates internal tension. When your outer behavior does not match your inner feelings, trust begins to weaken. Honest self-reflection removes that tension. It allows alignment between what you feel and what you do. When you say, "I am struggling right now," you open the door to real support, even if that support comes from yourself. This alignment builds self-respect, and self-respect strengthens self-trust. When you consistently face the truth about your emotional state without exaggerating or denying it, your confidence becomes grounded and stable. How do you recognize patterns of self-abandonment? You recognize patterns of self-abandonment by observing what you do during moments of discomfort. When you feel stressed, do you ignore your needs? When you feel rejected, do you criticize yourself? When you feel tired, do you push yourself even harder? These repeated reactions are clues. They show you how you learned to cope in the past. Self-abandonment is rarely dramatic. It is often quiet and automatic. It looks like choosing productivity over rest, approval over honesty, or distraction over reflection. Recognizing these patterns requires patience. You must observe yourself without judgment. Instead of saying, "I am wrong for doing this," you say, "This is how I respond when I feel unsafe." That shift creates compassion, and compassion creates space for change. When you see your patterns clearly, you can begin choosing different responses that protect your emotional well-being. Why is returning to yourself more important than never falling? Many people believe growth means never making the same mistake twice, but true growth often means learning how to return after you fall. You will disconnect from yourself sometimes. You will ignore your needs. You will react emotionally under stress. The key is not avoiding all mistakes. The key is repair. When you notice disconnection and gently return, you strengthen the relationship with yourself. You might pause and say, "I lost balance, but I am here again." That simple return builds resilience. It proves that distance is temporary. Over time, the fear of failure decreases because you trust your ability to reconnect. Each return becomes easier and faster. This repeated repair process creates deep emotional stability. You no longer panic when things go wrong. You know how to come back to yourself with patience and care. How does consistent care create long-term healing? Consistent care is more powerful than dramatic change. It means responding to your needs regularly, even in small ways. It means resting when necessary, setting boundaries when something feels wrong, and speaking kindly to yourself during mistakes. These actions may seem simple, but repetition gives them strength. Healing is not built in one powerful moment. It is built in daily choices. When you consistently treat yourself with respect, your nervous system begins to feel safe. Safety reduces anxiety and internal conflict. Over time, this safety becomes your emotional baseline. You feel steadier, even during challenges. Consistent care transforms healing from a temporary effort into a lifestyle. It creates a dependable inner environment where growth can continue naturally, without pressure or force. What happens when self-trust becomes your emotional foundation? When self-trust becomes your emotional foundation, your relationship with yourself changes completely. You still experience stress, disappointment, and uncertainty, but you no longer feel alone inside your own mind. You know that whatever happens, you will respond with honesty and compassion. Decisions become clearer because you listen to your internal signals. Goals become realistic because you respect your limits. You stop chasing perfection and begin valuing reliability. That reliability creates calm confidence. You feel steady instead of reactive. Emotional growth becomes a natural process rather than a constant struggle. Healing continues quietly through daily consistency and gentle returns. From the outside, nothing may look dramatic, but inside, everything feels different. You feel supported, balanced, and secure. And that steady, trustworthy relationship with yourself becomes one of the strongest forms of success you can ever build. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the next lesson. Your support means so much. It keeps this space alive and growing. With love, thank you for being here, and I can't wait to continue this journey with you.